could depend upon. So I'm just asking for that, and I know that you operate at the highest level of courtesy and integrity, but just understand what we're, facing as we try to go through this, and certainly be partners in ensuring that this is a budget that addresses the needs of our great state.
Again, I don't want you to feel alone here. Many parts of this budget were revealed to me through the Sacramento Bee as well.
Okay, well, got it. Then who should we be talking to, Senator Leno?
Clearly a reporter.
Any other comments or thoughts on issue number 8? I believe we're on issue 8. We have a motion and a second, right?
I think so.
Okay. Motion second. Thank you. Okay. 5-0 and 5-0. Thank you very much. We'll move on to issue number 9. California Community Colleges. Ms. Costa.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Issue number 9, page number 15. This represents the community college portion of our Prop 98 package. Again, I'll highlight just several of the bigger items here. The administration had proposed a proposal for the strong workforce, which there's trailer bill language here, which represents a compromise. It would include 60% of the funding to go directly to colleges and 40% to go to the regional consortia. The idea here is to create a more regional approach to these programs to best serve the individuals living within those areas and align them to jobs that are available within that region. Secondly, the package includes basic skills budget bill language directing $30 million in Proposition 98 and 1617 to support transformation grants, which were actually funded in the current year. There were several community college districts that had great applications but weren't able to receive funding, so this would allow some of them to receive that one-time grant funding, as well as language to change the funding formula for basic skills going forward in 17-18. Thank you.
Thank you. Questions or comments from the committee? Mr. Obaloti.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I actually think this package overall is very supportable, but I am very disappointed personally that the $15 million for the Veterans Resources Centers was taken out. That was very worthy of support, and would certainly like to see that restored in the future.
Thank you. Senator Nielsen.
Mr. Chairman, I have to echo that sentiment, particularly as privileged to be the chairman of the Senate's Veterans Committee, and I have seen the success of those resource centers on our community college campuses. And I hope we can continue to be vigilant to address those needs in the future.
Thank you, Senator. Senator Lara.
Thank you again. Just want to reiterate my concern and disdain for these innovation grants. I think we don't need to innovate any further. We need to hire more faculty and hire more and have more classrooms, and then we graduate people faster. So I just wanted to publicly state that.
Thank you. Any other comments? Do I have a motion and a second for issue number 9?
So moved.
So moved. Second. Okay. 5-0 on the Assembly side. 3-0 on the Senate side. Thank you. Issue number 10, the University of California.
Thank you. Issue number 10, University of California, page 17. This represents the conference compromise. In this package, $18.5 million general fund is being included for the University of California for a total increase of $143.9 million. It'll be similar to what the current year budget offered, which would be that the $18.5 million in additional funding would be released in May of 2017 if the UC were to enroll 2,500 more residents by 2017-18 and the Board of Regents adopts a policy capping non-resident enrollment. Additionally, the package provides $20 million one-time general fund for student outreach and student support services for low-income and underrepresented minority services. This is the bookend, basically, to the $200 million we've provided in Prop 98 for college readiness grants. So we have money going in on the K-12 side. This is the portion of the funding that would be on the UC side to serve those students.
Thank you, Ms. Costa. Questions, comments from the committee? Senator Leno.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. was slightly distracted, so I'm not sure that you mentioned, Ms. Costa, that a part of this compromise is the $22 million one time for the UC Innovation and Entrepreneurship Program. And I know that is something that Assemblywoman Irwin has been advocating for, and it will mean $2 million to each of the 10 campuses, plus another $2 million to Lawrence Berkeley, correct?
That's correct.
To expand upon the very successful QB3 program so that we can translate some of the research and development that's going on our campuses into the market world, and have great hopes for it. And I want to thank Assemblywoman Irwin for coming to my office and really making a push for it.
Thank you. Assemblymember McCarty.
Thank you. This issue and, frankly, the next one, issue 11 for CSU, is a big priority of the legislature as a whole, expanding access to higher education. We certainly don't have the general fund wherewithal to do what we would like to. We wanted to save money for the rainy day and dealing with other priorities. But I would note that this isn't exactly what we put forward, but we think it's a fair package dealing with enrollment and trying to make sure we ask the UC to do their part as well, as we alluded, similar to last year's package. And just want to note that the cap for out-of-state enrollment is certainly a big issue that we're pleased that there's a piece of it in there, and we really count on the UC regents to really notice that this is a strong bipartisan issue, and we really want to make sure that it's part of the package that gets forwarded to the legislature next year before the Department of Finance, of course, releases those funds. And so we think that this goes a long way to expand student enrollment, student access, and we look forward to the response from the UC. Thank you.
Thank you. I just to add to Mr. McCarty's additional comments, obviously the in-state enrollment for Californians' access to UC has been a very critical issue. We think this helps toward that issue, but obviously doesn't begin to address the void that is still there. So obviously this is a good step, but we'll be continuing to work on this issue for years to come. With that, Mr. Obernolte.
Mr. Chair, I'd like to make a motion that we approve this item with the exception of items 2, 6, and 8.
I have a motion to approve this item except for items 2, 6, and 8. Issue 10 on page 17. We're on issue 10, page 17. So I have a motion. I do have a second. So we have, yes, we have a 5-0 and a 5-0.
And I'll make a motion now to support items. I'll now make a motion to support items 2, 6, and 8.
Items 2, 6, and 8. We have a 3.
6, 8, or 9?
2, 6, and 8.
Yep, 2, 6, and 8. Yes.
3 and 2, 3 and 2. Mm-hmm. Okay. Thank you very much. Issue 11, UC Prop 2 funding. Ms. Costa.
This part of the package the administration does not support. This language would recommend budget bill language stating that the $171 million in Proposition 2 funding will be distributed to UC if UC rescinds the defined contribution pension options. We'd note that as part of the current year package, the administration agreed with UC to release Prop 2 funds for this purpose if they adopted a PEPRA-compliant policy, which we believe they have.
Thank you. Back to the committee. Any? There's a motion and a second for the Senate motion. Prior to voting that, I just wanted to make a very quick comment on the issue. Obviously, the reason the Assembly felt so strongly about the issue was the benefit for most UC employees were those at the very highest income levels. So we really thought that it wasn't the best use of support for UC or its employees. But with that, I believe we do have a motion and a second to support the Senate proposal, which is no change.
It's the Assembly recommendation.
So 5-0 for the Senate to approve the Senate. Oh, you want to move the Assembly version? Okay.
That's not what I understood the motion.
I apologize. So just there. Okay, that's what I thought. So you are moving the Senate version. The Senate version is to have no change. Okay, so we have a 5-0 and a 5-0 for the Senate version. Is that? I'm looking at Ms. Bates. Senator Bates has not. Okay, so 5-0, 5-0. Thank you. Issue 12, California State University. Ms. Costa.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Issue 12, page 20, represents the conference compromise for the California State University system. This package would increase the governor's budget of $12.5 million general fund for a total increase for CSU of $160.8 million ongoing general fund above the 15-16 level. Budget bill language would set enrollment target for the CSU as well at 5,194 new full-time enrollment students. It also increases above the governor's May revised proposal one-time funding of $25 million for a total of $50 million one-time general fund. Of this amount, $35 million will be released after CSU adopts a plan to improve graduation rate targets system-wide and by campus. The $35 million can be used for activities related to the campuses in the system, implementing the graduation initiative, and overall policies to improve graduation rates.
Thank you, Ms. Costa. Member Olson.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. This is a good issue in the sense that more funding to be able to increase enrollment for more California students is a positive. We all know that we have a huge shortage of college-educated graduates to meet workforce demands right now, and that problem is growing. And so I'm pleased to see additional monies geared toward, one, improving time to degree completion, but also enrolling more California students. Nevertheless, I would point out this is about a tenth of what we in the legislature were asking for when it comes to increasing funding for CSU. We have a long way to go to make sure our universities remain top quality and accessible to more California students. So again, it's a step in the right direction, but we have a long way to go in future years.
Thank you, Assemblymember Olson. Senator Nielsen? Senator Nielsen has a motion to approve issue 12. Do I have a second?
Second.
Ms. Olson?
Thank you. We would prefer to pull item 3, but we'd be okay in supporting all the other items.
Okay, so would you mind amending the motion so we pull out item 3, Senator Nielsen? Okay. We're we're approving issue 12, pulling out item 3. We have 5-0 on the Assembly side, 5-0 on the Senate side. With that, can I get a motion to approve item 3? I got a motion.
Second.
Second. We have a 3-2 on the Assembly side, 3-2 on the Senate side. Okay, moving on. Issue 13, other higher education. Ms. Costa.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Issue 13, page 21. These are the other issues associated with higher education. I would note that one of the items on the package amends the middle class scholarship statute to lower the annual appropriation by $42 million. Those funds have been used previously in the other higher education items that we just voted on, so this funding did stay within higher education. As well as we reached a compromise on our proposal for the precision medicine. Within that proposal, there's budget bill language that would require a spending plan, as well as budget bill language that the awards would be made to public institutions in both Northern and Southern California. And lastly, trailer bill language describing the selection committee process.
Thank you, Ms. Costa. Any comments, questions from the committee? Senator Leno.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Just briefly, we had a good discussion through our budget subcommittees and in budget committee with regard to the precision medicine proposal, and the agreed upon budget bill language is an important and significant addition to it so that we can bring greater transparency and equity to the program, which I think we all recognize has some real value to it. So thank you for working with us on that budget bill language.
Thank you, Senator. Okay. So do I have a motion and a second?
Yes, so moved.
So moved, okay. I have a 3-0 on the Senate side, 3-2 on the Assembly side. Thank you. With that, we'll be moving to issue 14, which is homelessness assistance and poverty reduction conference package. Department of Social Services. Issue 7, Mr. McCarty, I believe you were out of the room. Other K-12 investments. It was a 4-0 and a 5-0. Did you want to add on as a yes? 5-0. Thank you. Okay, issue 14. Ms. Costa, whenever you're ready. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chair and members. Issue 14, Homelessness Assistance and Poverty Reduction Compromise Package, page 23. Again, I'll just highlight a few of the items here within the package. We had a lengthy conversation with Assemblywoman Gonzalez on CalWorks diaper assistance. The compromise is to conduct a study so that we can better understand how the idea of providing a diaper voucher could be operationalized. So that's represented here in the package, as well as the May revised proposal for SSP COLA increase, which would be effective on January 1st of 2017, as well as a proposal for SSP outreach, and the compromise for that is $45 million general fund one time.
Thank you. Back to the committee. Do I have a motion for approving Senator Nielsen? Senator Nielsen would like to move approvals except item 5. Second. I have a 5-0 over here on the Senate, 3-2 on the Assembly. We have a motion to approve item 5. Do I have a second? Second. I have 3-2 from the Senate and 3-2 on the Assembly. Okay, thank you. Moving on to issue 15, Aging Seniors and Persons with Disabilities Conference Package. Ms. Costa.
Thank you. Issue 15, page 25. This is the conference compromise regarding aging seniors and persons with disabilities. I'd note that the package includes a compromise of $2 million general fund one time for senior nutrition, specifically for home-delivered meals, with some associated budget bill language, as well as a conference compromise of $3 million one time for adult protective services training with associated budget bill language.
Thank you, Ms. Costa. I believe, is there a motion to approve issue 15, pulling out items 2 and 4?
And before we take the vote?
Oh, sorry, Senator Leno.
Sure. Just want to make mention, we're moving very quickly, and not everyone in our viewing public is able to see everything on our agenda per issue, given that we're only highlighting some. But I don't want it to go unmentioned that between the senior nutrition investment of $5.4 million, which will assist in the delivery of home-delivered meals through groups like Meals on Wheels and others.
Just a point of clarification, it's $2 million?
Oh, I'm sorry. Thank you for correcting me. $2 million, yes. As well as the investment on the previous item, let me just get to it, of our statewide emergency fund assistance, a fund that we established a few years ago. That's also $2 million. That we're, again, taking a little bite out of the, excuse the expression, the serious issue of food insecurity in the state of California. So, again, thanks to the governor for working with us on that.
Thank you. So I was looking for a motion to approve the item without items 2 and 4. I have a motion. Second. Pulling out 2 and 4. I got 5-0. Senate. 3-2. 5-0. 5-0. 5-0 from this.
Move items 2 and 4.
Yeah.
Move item 2.
So just 2 and 4. Oh, you want items 2? Okay. You want just to move item 2 then?
I'll move item 2, Mr. Chair. Second.
Mr. Obnoti moves item 2. 5-0 on item 2. 5-0 on item 2. Thank you.
Move item 4.
Move item 4. Do I have a second for item 4? Second. We have a 5-0 on item 4 for the Senate, 3-2 in the Assembly. We had you as a aye, I believe. So item 2, no. Is that a 3-2 or is that a 4-1? 3-2.
3-2 on our side.
Okay. Very good. Item 4 was a 5-0, yes. Okay. Ms. Costa, issue 16, long-term care ombudsman.
Thank you. Issue 16, page number 26. The conference compromise is to approve $1 million in general fund one time from the State Health Facility Citation Penalties account for 16-17 for the long-term care ombudsman.
Thank you. Any questions? Move to approve. Move to approve. Do I have a second? Second. 5-0 on the Senate, 5-0 on the Assembly. Thank you. Issue 17. We have Child Welfare Services, Foster Care Conference Package. Ms. Costa.
Thank you. Issue 17, page number 27. This represents the conference compromise, including a number of items for the Department of Social Services. Again, I'll highlight just a few in the interest of time. It includes a Chafee Education and Training Voucher Program of $3 million, general fund ongoing to provide additional grants to foster youth, as well as $1.7 million general fund ongoing for public health nursing and monitoring of psychotropic medication.
Thank you. Are there questions or comments from the committee? Senator Nielsen would like to move. Would you like to pull out item 2? Okay. So.
And Mr. Chair, I would like to pull out items 1 and 5, and I can speak to that briefly if that's appropriate.
That's fine. Absolutely.
I'd like to pull out items 1 and 5 and present an alternative motion on those 2 items for the Assembly version. Item 1 dealing with emergency child care for foster children. For all the foster youth advocates in the state, that is their highest priority of the year. With the reforms that have already been put into law, we now have to eliminate group homes and find a lot more foster care homes. And one of the barriers to counties doing that is the unavailability of emergency child care for these families. I think it's of critical importance, and the foster youth advocates say, again, that it's their very highest priority of the year. So that's why I would suggest the Assembly version for item 1. On item 5, for very similar reasons, I think it's very important that we continue funding for counties in order to allow them to recruit more foster families and foster parents to love on these kids.
Okay. Assembly Member Bloom.
I just want to register my disappointment that we're not funding the emergency child care for foster children for the reasons that Ms. Olson just explained.
Thank you, Member Bloom. So, Senator Nielsen had a motion to pull out item 2. Can we just vote on for? And Assemblymember Olson had a motion to pull out items 1 and 5. Could we just vote on items 3, 4, 6, and 7? Could I get a motion for that first? So second. We have 5-0 on the Assembly, 5-0 on the Senate. Assemblymember Olson had a motion for items 1 and 5.
To substitute them with the appropriations included in the Assembly versions.
Okay. There's a second. Okay.
I'd like Mr. Chair, I'd like to make a substitute motion to go with the Senate version.
Okay. Substitute motion, and there's a second on that substitute motion? Okay. So we will.
And if I may comment on that. One of those situations where it's just not a perfect world. And we certainly made our case to the administration that these are our children. And we continue to underfund them, we continue to fail them, and then we oftentimes see their lives not what they could be. So my heart is with you. At the same time, we've had to make compromises to get so much that we have in return in our negotiations with the administration. So I'd like to be with you on this, Assemblywoman Olson, but I have to be respectful of the negotiated agreements. At the same time, I would like to point out that whereas I know the administration was not interested in new ongoing funding, we did get agreement on $1.7 million general fund ongoing with regard to the issue of psychotropic medication. We know our foster youth are being heavily and overly medicated. Their lives are suffering as a result of it, and this will provide additional health professionals to be able to monitor exactly what we are doing with those psychotropic medications. So a little here, a little there. Step by step, I hope that we'll get back to where we need to be.
I also wanted to comment and just agree with Senator Leno. I think that we all feel we wish we could do more funding for foster children. We do have $4 million general fund ongoing to increase the infant supplement grant here, as well as $3 million $3 million ongoing for our Chafee education training program. I wish we could have added the child care program as well, but unfortunately, in order to get these items, this is what we were ended up compromising on. So we do have a substitute motion with the Senate, and that was to approve the Senate's version of items 1 and 5. 3-2? 3-2. Okay, thank you. Do I have a motion to approve item 2? Okay. Okay. We have 3-2 and a 4-1. 3-2 and 4-1. 3-2 in the Senate, 4-1 in the Assembly. Okay. Ms. Olson was an aye? Okay, thank you. 1 and 5 are aye on issue 17 for Senator Nielsen and Senator Bates. Oh, I'm sorry. Okay, and Senator Bates. 5-0 on items 1 and 5. Okay. Sorry, just to restate for everyone who's watching and also in the room. For items 1 and 5 on issue 17, we have 5-0 in the Senate and we have 3-2 in the Assembly. Okay, thank you very much. Issue 18, additional adjustments in social services. Ms. Costa.
Thank you. Issue 18 include other adjustments, including some of which are technical for the Department of Social Services. This is page 28 and 29 of the agenda. Again, I'll highlight just a few. The package includes a conference compromise to approve $12 million general fund ongoing for housing support program. That will bring the level of funding for this program up to $47 million total and ongoing. This program is to provide support services for the homeless or those at risk of becoming homeless. Additionally, there is within the package a conference compromise of $5 million general fund ongoing for a total of $19 million to support the commercially sexually exploited children's program. And with that, I'll answer any questions.
Thank you, Ms. Costa. I believe, could I get a motion to approve items 1 and 2? Items 1 and 2. Okay. And a second?
Yes.
Second.
Just
Okay.
I would like to make a comment
Yes, Senator
on
Bates.
item number 1. We are receiving information from counties certainly other than Los Angeles that they are becoming, less enamored of this because they're not being included. It looks like most of the money is going to Los Angeles County housing projects and does not reflect the needs of the state. So I'm just putting that on the record. I will be abstaining on it at this point in time. I certainly support the concept. I think we're all very much involved in our counties and our districts with the homeless issue and trying to alleviate that. But if it's just focusing on one specific area, and I can tell you we have as much in San Diego and Orange County, that's not, I think, a fair distribution of something that's extremely important throughout the state.
Thank you, Senator. Any other comments on any of the items in hand? Senator Leno.
Ms. Costa, given that San Francisco's experience with the housing support program, which is through CalWorks, correct?
Jay Kapoor with the Department of Finance. Yes, this program is through the CalWorks.
Right, and it's definitely been of great assistance in our efforts to keep people housed, especially those who are trying to make their way back into the working world and stabilizing their lives. And yet we still have a waiting list in San Francisco, so these additional dollars will be beneficial. But for the sake of Senator Bates is concerned, can you tell us a little bit better how these dollars are distributed, and should we have concern that there's some lack of equity in that distribution?
So the program, the way it works is the counties have to submit a plan or a proposal as to how they intend to use the funds, and then the awards are, depending on if that plan is approved or requires modification. The Department of Social Services then determines what the allocation amount is and allocates those funds to the counties. They do work with the County Welfare Directors Association on, determining what the appropriate level of allocation should be. But again, it will be dependent upon what the county's plan includes and what types of activities or services they plan to fund.
Are all the county's plans reviewed and considered before any dollars go out the door? The reason I ask is it possible that all dollars could have been expended before counties?
That's not possible.
That's not possible.
They are reviewed and approved first.
Senator Bates, if I may, Mr. Chair, I just suggest that you might hook up some of your county folks with the department to make sure that they're well aware of how they can get their fair share, because that's the intent.
The information I received, Senator Leno, is coming directly from our Department of Social Services. So I want to see the policy issues. To me, it should be based on something that's more per capita, based on the homeless counts. We spend a lot of money, a lot of time in our counties doing homeless count, and then it also is combined with what are the reasons for the homeless. Do we have the mental health issues, drug abuse, the veterans? And this should be really more precise than just block grants and someone puts in a program. And having served at the county, as you have, or hope to, am I right?
Oh, yeah.
These are issues, you guys. The counties get lots of money, but if it's specifically dedicated to a certain way to do something, then they can't use the money, or they don't get enough to address the specific issue. So I think it needs to be more precise in terms of the way they're going to allocate the funds. So I'm abstaining because I think there needs to be pressure from this body on how the policy plays out, so that we are really looking at there's silos of people homeless. I was a social worker, as you remember, so I worked for many years with a lot of the same problems, and you really need to understand where you're putting the money so you get the biggest bang for your buck, and you are really addressing the problems and correcting them. So that's my concern. A lot of money can do a lot of good, but if it's not precise, we're not going to hit the targets.
Thank you, Senator. Senator Nielsen. So we have a motion to approve issue 18, items 1 and 2. We have 3-0 on the Senate, 3-2 on the Assembly. Thank you. And then we just want to note on number 2 on issue 18, we have deleted the with modified budget bill language. So it'll just read, for One California, approve $15 million general fund one time replacing the prior legislative action on this issue for both houses. The final count was on the Senate 3-0 and on the Assembly 3-2. Can I get a motion to approve items 3 and 5?
So moved. Second.
Move. Second. Items 3 and 5. 5-0 on the Senate, 5-0 on the Assembly. Can I get a motion to approve and second issue 4, item 4, on issue 18?
So moved. Second.
Second, okay. I did want to just make one quick comment on the motion to approve that. While we obviously, agree on this compromise, we hope that the administration will continue to be flexible in the ongoing implementation of this issue, as obviously with recent law changes, not everyone understands what the changes have been, and obviously as it becomes implemented, we hope that the administration continues to remain flexible on that.
Mr. Chair, we will
Ms.
work
Costa.
with stakeholders over the coming months on this issue.
Thank you, Ms. Costa. With that, I have a motion and a second to approve item 4, issue 18, 3-2 on the Assembly, 5-0 on the Senate. I'm seeing heads. 5-0 on the Senate. Thank you. For item 4, issue 18. Oh, I apologize. I forgot there's items 6 through 9 on the back. So I have a second. Second. Thank you. I'm looking at 5-0 on the Assembly to approve items and 5-0 on the Senate. Thank you. Issue 19, Developmental and Rehabilitative Services Conference Package. Ms. Costa.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Issue 19, page 30 and 31 of the agenda. I would note that several of the issues before you in this conference compromise package are actually language proposals tied to the administration's proposals. I'd highlight within the package number 11, which provides $705,000 general fund to state-based funding parity for 3 of the independent living centers, as well as item number 14 in this issue, which would provide a compromise to approve provisional language to allow DSS to request $32.4 million general fund to reflect the loss of federal funds associated with the Sonoma Developmental Center.
Thank you. Member Obernolte.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Question for the Department of Finance. On item 15, we were scratching our heads. We've never heard of the Best Buddies program in a budget context. Could you explain what that is?
Certainly. The Best Buddies program is a nonprofit that serves individuals with developmental disabilities. And so this proposal would provide $1 million to this organization to further that purpose.
Was that heard in Budget Subcommittee?
Not that I'm aware of.
All right.
Thank you. Was there any other comments or questions? Member Obernolte.
Mr. Chair, I'd like to make a motion that we approve the package with the exception of items 3, 14, and 15.
I have a motion and a second to approve the package excluding items 3, 14, and 15. Items 3, the Regional Center Consumer Program Coordinator Budget Bill language. Item 14, Sonoma Developmental Center, loss of federal funding. And item 15, Best Buddies. Senator Nielsen, did you have a question or comment? No. Okay.
Go ahead.
Okay. There's a second. We have 5-0 on the Assembly for that motion. Senator Bates. 5-0 on the Senate. Can I get a motion to approve items 3, 14, and 15?
So moved. Second.
Okay, a motion and a second. 3-2 on the Assembly for that motion. 3-2 on the Senate for that motion as well. Thank you. Okay, issue 20, Public Health Conference Package.